So let's get started with Bhavna and Dia. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time out and coming to business banking and beyond.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is ours to be here today.
So first, I really want to know about your journey. How did you end up in UAE? What made you start your podcast, which we are going to discuss later in the podcast today? So first of all, Dia, if I would really like to know your journey.
Okay. So my journey to UAE started on a very personal note. I got married and then I landed in the city of gold, which is UAE. I have done my bachelor's in hotel management, so basically from a hospitality background. I was working with brands like Taj, Oberoi's, Regent, Sarovar Park Plaza back in Pune. I was also then serving as a faculty for personality development subject, front desk operations, and many more in the hospitality sector. So when I moved from India to UAE, it was really very, very amazing journey to see how dynamic and fast forward the business landscape here is. Because back in India, it's completely different, of course, due to the geographical locations. And when I came here to UAE, there were so many opportunities. There were so many, diverse cultures here. The backgrounds are different. But every single minute you feel that this is the perfect place where you can stand and start something impactful. So this is how a short brief about my journey from India to UAE. It is, of course, marriage. That's how I landed here.
So when you moved to UAE, what was your next goal? How did you started? Did you started a job? You started the entrepreneurial journey directly?
Yeah, very good question. For most of us, see, I of course started with doing job. I was working with one of the universities here, which is Harriet Watt University. Then I was working with Chubby Cheeks. I did my early childhood education also while I was working. So I was always into either hospitality or education, and I did start with job. Then I had an event management company. I started off my own. Unfortunately, COVID hit and we had to close down. That's a unfortunate event. But most of us had that setback and outgrew it. So that company got closed down. But during COVID, being from an education background, I started my e-learning institute, which is called EdPark. And by God's grace, things were getting better because people were losing on to the traditional methods and trying to embrace the technology and trying to take the new hit in between. When they were in their schools, colleges, people were accepting e-learning. So I started e-learning institute, and here I am with 4 years startup.
Well, that's really amazing. Especially, I've always picked up your niche as education and hospitality, and you have stick to that. And today, EdPark is there, and you have your own podcast.
Yeah.
I'll come to the EdPark and podcast, of course. Before that, I'll really like to know the Bhavna's journey as well.
Okay, so again, I did my MBA long back, and I was working with JD's Profession Technology. I was working with NIIT. I worked with Tata Infotech. Then I got married, went to Oman. Now in Oman also I went to Salala, which offered very limited opportunities long back for women. So I worked with a company as executive secretary to CEO, and then 8 years later, I shifted to UAE. And the basic reason for coming to UAE or Oman was again marriage, husband, family. So after coming to UAE, and I had 2 small kids that time, so I was on a sabbatical. Then I joined an IT company here because they allowed me working till 2:30. So my main focus was that I want to be back before my kids come back. And after that, when my kids grew up a little, I started my life skill classes program, which used to be 15 classes from grade 6 to grade 12. It went well. And then I restarted my studies in psychology, which I did not get a chance to do when I did my 12th. Because psychology that time, and when we talk about it, like 1993, 92, used to be a taboo subject.
So true.
So that time talking about psychology means like, oh, it's the study of crazies. Who's going to marry you? Kind of a thing. So I restarted my studies, and
But I think today psychology is the most important thing, I would say.
It used to be then too.
Yeah.
It's just that, it's like an unspoken taboo. Like, the moment you mention psychology, it has to do with your mental health.
I think that time it was all about money. Although we say today's it's capitalism, but I feel the older generation was more into the money aspect. We never focus the mental aspect. I feel like.
Yeah, mental health.
No,
was
and
not
it
a-
was like, it's basically it's socially, it's not acceptable that you go to a counselor or a psychologist to discuss your problems. When talking about problems was not an in thing, kind of a thing, talking outside of family.
Because there are already too many issues and you had to just focus making the
But
money.
expected to deal with it.
Yes. So then COVID hit, and after that, I was working with a company in JLT, and then it closed down. And after COVID, I started my own firms. I decide, and now I prefer working as education counselor, but I do work with a lot of teenagers and young adults on their mental stress management too.
So it's a deadly combination of education, hospitality, and psychology.
Yes.
So even the children's kids would come there to get, and the same parents are your target market as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's like really you have made the right combination.
So I
For-
think first they come to us and then they go to her for counseling.
It's good. Good. I mean, good in terms of long-term relationship with the
Oh,
clients.
yes.
Was this purposeful or it's like created by God on earth, like we say?
It's very funny. You meet in life, connect right type of people at the right time and the right place. Yes.
So how did you meet? If as in,
Like 4 years back, I think we both were invited as speakers in an education summit, and by that time I had only heard her name and she heard mine, and we both got an invite, and I was looking through the list and I was like, she is familiar, let me message her. And then I messaged her and she responded, and we met there and it just clicked.
Yeah, we were like seated next to each other. And within no time, I tell you, Hemant, we were talking about all type of subjects in education. Beyond the textbooks, beyond the classroom also was born from there.
Yeah.
Because, students have been always into textbooks, into traditional learning methods, but nobody teaches you what happens later on. There is no textbook right now which will give you an information what actually happens in life.
What is needed?
What is needed? So to tap that real life.
can you explain that more?
Okay, so let me see. Now, when we talk about life, okay, we want to be successful. But is anyone's life that successful? You always have your share of failures. I have had mine. She's had ours.
Of course.
But the whole point is, do we teach our children to take failure in the stride? To understand that it's okay to fall, but then what matters is how you get up, how you reevaluate your journey, how you optimize your next step.
So basically you're saying building the persona rather than just the knowledge.
Exactly. And look, getting low marks is a part of life. Life does not close. If this stream is not available to you, that is. So there are multiple facets to life, and that is what you don't teach in the classrooms. You don't teach building confidence.
No, we had a very clear vision when we started beyond the classroom. We wanted to create a space for students, for aspiring professionals, or for that matter, business owners. Now, people who have already walked through that journey, why not present those real life experiences to your audience, which will connect the bridge? It's like bridging the gap. But these are not the traditional learnings which will tell us the classrooms. You will be always, there is a theory, there is a practice, but there is a gap between both.
Of course, I understand that completely because I am also a big believer, although I have never mentioned on any of my podcasts that I used to be a topper of my class all the way. But I think I should not have been because I don't see anything which I learned is helping me much.
Exactly. And that is what that is what we wanted to, and do. And even in our podcast, the stories that we focus, it's a learning for parents too. A lot of parents that, okay, journey is not limited to this and there is no age.
Podcast is a very good tool, I think, today available, where you can voice it out, where somebody might get inspired, somebody might get helped. You never know.
I
Who is
will move on
listening
to
to-
that podcast thing, but before that, I have this really curious question to ask. I'll take a step back and ask this question. What do you think is really a success? What is the definition of success? And then we will eventually answer what is failure as well. So, just I want to know what is success? What is the definition of success?
in terms of podcast.
No, not podcast, in life. If I have to really define what is success to my kid, to my family, to anyone, what will be that line?
For me, if you ask me what is success, success is if you are at a place where you're happy and you're content and you think that whatever you worked hard to achieve, you were able to achieve. That is what success is. Because even if you are successful in other people's parameters, and if you're not happy inside, you're always into the race. You always, the moment you achieve one step, you want to go forward. And it's okay to go forward, but not at the cost of people around you, not at the cost of family, not at the cost of the time for your children. So for me, success is if I'm today here, I'm happy, I've achieved my goals, what I had set. That is success for me.
What do you think, Bia?
I have a little different perspective. For me, success is also about financial stability, because after all, you need to pay your bills. At the end of the day, I am happy doing what I am, but I do need that financial stability, and for that, I need to be successful. So I always had a little, I beg to differ with the hospital and this, but that's how it has been.
Everybody has its own perspective. I'll share my perspective as well.
So that is what I had.
Happiness, yes, of course, you do need to be happy. You need to be passionate about your work, because every day you need to go there. So you need to be passionate about it. But yes, at the end, success is when you also have a financial stability along with the happiness.
I'll get this answer as well from my side, although it's not.
Yeah, no.
No, I would love to hear.
I get this answer after 10 years of something happened in my school life. So as I said, I was like not studious guy, but I used to make good marks. That's fine. So this is a story where I was sitting in my school and we had a very nice school, big conference room. So there is an alumni. I was maybe 14 years old when this happened. And this alumni walks in. He was 30 years old, good corporate job. So school called him to give us a little lecture. How is the real world? So this guy with all suit boot, he's there on the stage. I am down and with the back people. So he asked one question same question. Guys, what do you think is the success? So nobody answered. Everybody is laughing. So then he says that success is happiness. There is nothing else. So I was also not confident enough as an answer, to be honest. For me, I am an ambitious guy from day one. So I said, what is he speaking? There was the most naughtiest guy in my class who stands up from the back, and he stands up with full confidence and he says, I don't get marks, I don't get anything. I am happy. I am successful. Do you agree to that? Still, my alumni said, yes, you are successful. And I was laughing that time that this alumni is, I think, not right. But after 10 years, when I look back, I feel like he was right. I feel like no matter how much I achieve, if I'm not successful, if I'm not happy,
Yeah.
I'm not successful. So this is also my parameter as
But this happiness, you don't need anybody's validation for that. That you decide how happy you are and what makes you happy. You don't need somebody else
No.
to validate your...
That's what I think the point of...
Yeah, because, like society has created some parameters, but for success and happiness, the parameter should always be yours to decide.
For sure.
So that is what I tell my students also.
Nice. So I'll move on. Before I move on to the entrepreneurial journey of yours in podcasting, I want to know, how was your failure? What did you learn in the event aspect which you had failed? What was your learning then? And then how did you convert that failure, so-called, I don't say that failure, I say although it's learning, but I think for the society or for the viewers, it becomes more virality when we say this. So what was your learning?
So when COVID hit, of course, events were at a halt. You could not do anything. What I learned, you need to be flexible. You need to try different formats. You need to keep experimenting. This was the learning that I got after I failed or whatever. Due to circumstances, the event management company had to close down. So these were the 3 basic learnings, which is, I would say there are certain things which you think, has a certain mindset. You plan very meticulously that this is how, for today's podcast, for example, you plan meticulously. This is how I would be asking the question, and this probably is going to be my answer, or this is how the guest might respond, but not necessarily I might respond the same way. So I need to be flexible. I need to adapt as per the conditions. I need to follow the global trends and move forward. This is my learning from the event management company towards
So I have to give 2-3 keywords to it.
No, but here is your master.
It would be experiment, flexibility, anything else to add in that as an
and
entrepreneur.
experiment new formats.
Yeah, so experiment and flexibility.
Yes.
What about you, Bang?
Okay, so when I started my life classes and it started going well and all, so I had an accident and I broke my kneecap. And I was like almost kind of bedridden or, for a good amount of time. And so I started valuing like, I started this and all. And then my family, especially my kids, they were like, you always wanted to do something, study psychology and all. Why don't you start? I said, okay, good point. And that is when I started my re-education kind of thing. So started to study. Now, going back to books after a long, long time is extremely difficult. Believe me, you start reading. Give me a fiction book, I can read it in one go, like 3 hours. Give me a talks about it. So
If I don't get sleep, I take a book in my hand. That's how I get sleep nowadays.
so for me, going back to textbooks was difficult, but I was like, no, this is my passion, and I want to do this. So it took me around 3 months just to sit for 1 hour and not go to sleep. But yes, that is where I restarted my journey of my, again, undergrad, post-grad. And now I am in my final phase of my PhD. So that is how it was. So again, when I say, okay, one, don't limit yourself to age. Okay, I'm this old. Can I do this? Yes. Everyone can do anything, any point in time. I know a lady who teaches salsa at the age of 90.
Wow. And from where she belongs?
She's a Danish lady. And I also know a lady who's doing MBBS at the age of 68. She's a grandma. But she always wanted to do medicine.
So one is physical example, one is mental example, I would say.
Exactly. So I was like, so don't limit yourself to age. Okay, at this age, can I do this? Will I be able to do this? So this is one thing, don't limit. You want to do it, go ahead and do it. Don't worry about what people will say, what will, happen. What if I'm not successful? It's okay. Anyways, at a later stage, nobody has any expectations out of you, right?
It's very true. Age don't highly abilities are actually great things.
So just go ahead and do it and see whether, who knows, maybe you are successful at the first thing that you do.
In fact, we have a very good guest.
Just trying it itself is an achievement.
Yeah, exactly. We had a very interesting guest. Probably I'll come to it after your questions. But he is just 13 or 14 years old. He's a young author. He's written 3 books.
At 14.
At 14. I wouldn't have imagined what I was thinking when I was 13 or 14 years old. I never thought about, I was always into English, math, science. That's what my world was. Daily academics that I need to excel. My parents have told me, भाई इतना पढ़ाई करो उसके बाद सबको कॉलेज जाना है तो मार्क्स अच्छे लाने हैं आपको. This is what was the focus for most of us. But this guest, the kind of topics, this Yash, his name is Yash Chopra. His 3rd book is releasing now very soon. So he has said that the society has given boxes to everyone and they expect you to be in a certain manner, to behave in a certain way, to study in a certain way, but that's not how it should be. If I want to be a sports person, I want to be a musician, why cannot I be? That society expects you sometimes to behave in a certain manner or think in a certain manner or pick up career paths. There are certain career paths which we always think, right, is the right way to go ahead. But he has written it excellently in his book that age does not matter to achieve great things. You can, if you want to do it, if you're passionate, you can. So whether it's 89 and 90 years old lady or whether it's 13, 14-year-old boy who has written a book, I think this is resonating for us.
And stereotypes, it's always good to break the stereotypes, right?
I think anyways, new generation is not going to focus what people say. I hope I am falling under that generation. So,
Do we all?
well, now something a pain point of entrepreneurs. I want to know from you, Bhavna. When it comes to entrepreneurship, a lot of psychological challenges you face, a lot of stress you face. And the worst part is because you're on the top, you don't have people to speak. If you try to speak as well, there are chances that you break that privacy of other people in your company. And tomorrow, if there is some misbalance in your relation with that person, you might lose a lot. So on the top, it's lonely. So when you meet a lot of entrepreneurs, maybe like me as well, and I'm getting this free guidance from you today, what do you guide them and how do you take further if they are coming to you as a psychologist?
Okay, so if the first thing I would always mention is like, as my work also, I am not, even I'm not allowed to discuss my cases or, to anyone because, that is protocol. But then I always suggest that, have a sounding board. Sounding board means someone who's not related, who's not a competition, who's not related to your profession, who's not related to you at any point, neither family nor friends. Find one person who's just willing to listen to you. Because, if you talk about our mind, it's like it has boxes, it has compartments. And all our thoughts are just jumbled up. The moment you start talking to someone, it's like, you start filling your boxes in a synchronized way. And then you have space to think. Most of the people, most of the entrepreneurs know their problems, know the issues or challenges they're facing. They even know the answers. It's just that they need someone to resonate, to just bounce the ideas off. And that is something you need to do with a person who's not related to you, your company, your work, your family, anyone. That is where I come into picture. So having a sounding board is extremely, extremely important. Even for me, I cannot discuss my cases with her. I cannot discuss my cases with my family. Neither can I discuss this with my fellow psychologists. But I also have a sounding board.
How does that work? What is soundboard? Can you explain?
Sounding board is when I come to you. Now, you know me as a psychologist. Okay. You know me that I do this work. But then you don't know anything other than what I do. And then I just talk to you and you just are there listening. And you just tell me that, okay, I'm there with you. You're just listening. You're not giving me ideas. You're not giving me solutions. You're just resonating or, this ideas that I'm throwing at you or the frustration or if I feel some challenges, how do I sort this? What kind of advice do I use? So this is the kind of sounding board. This is how it works. So in Europe, in some countries, now there is a concept that has started, which is called as human library. Okay. This is a very good concept where people actually sign up to become sounding boards to people. So it's human libraries means that I want to talk to someone for 1 hour. So the person is lending himself, his ears to me for 1 hour. And that has worked very well in a lot of countries in Europe.
And why do you think
Yeah.
it has to be someone who's not known to you, not friend, family? What's the reason?
Because of judging. Because there is always a chance that your thing might go out, like you're always scared that anyone is like, why don't we talk to our family about everything that we feel? Why? Because Maybe we think that, we'll send our pressures to them. We'll send our, our feelings to them. They will be pressurized. They will feel, bad about it. No, it has to be a neutral person, because that the person will be able to support you or listen to you only if that person is not feeling pressurized for you.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Is it like also because we hold some kind of a reputation?
Yes.
And
And
again, we hold our image when we are professionally somewhere. Personally, of course, our images are very different. We are not the same at both the worlds. So can that be also one of the reason? And secondly, you are not expecting somebody to advise you,
yeah.
but just a listening ear.
And moreover, this scare of being judged is always there with everyone you meet. Isn't it?
Yeah, of course, most of the times that's the reason that you will only tell which is in your favor.
Exactly. And that is one of the reasons it has to be a neutral person, because then you're not scared of being judged or whatever you're doing,
You're just speaking your heart out
Exactly.
without any advices.
That is one of the reasons why in olden times people used to write diaries.
Oh, yeah.
What was diary? Diary was a way to vent your feelings, your emotions, your victories, your failures, your frustrations, anything and everything. And it is very important to do that, because it keeps piling up.
Do you think this can be somewhere used in meditation as well, where we can really move out the thoughts itself outside our...
It is a very good way of people who are really, good with meditation, and they are able to, channel this out with meditation. Yes, any form. I mean, I know some people who are into Thai boxing because of that.
Yeah. In fact, you see those smash nowadays. That's the new thing. Smash tips. What is smash those? Went out your anger, you went out your emotions. That's also a way of, but again, it depends on what you want to choose. Meditation or smash box.
Depends on personality.
Personalities.
Can you really be calm and peace to move out, or you really want that energy?
Yeah.
So moving on to the second thing, Dia, when it comes to your background of EduPark, right? EdPark, sorry. So when it comes to EdPark, I understand beyond the classroom is all about moving out of the textbook or what is not in the textbook. How did you remove or move on to this direction where you remove the textbooks and you focus the new technology, cutting edge ideas, everything in your space? What is the process you are using? What is the technology you are using in your startup EdPark?
Okay, so when we started the e-learning EdPark, of course, we did face the biggest challenge where we had to bridge the gap between traditional learning methods and incorporate and embrace the technology. Now, it was not an easy thing, but when COVID hit, things were very different. People were more adaptable. Parents were hesitant initially, where they could not accept e-learning so much, because the reasons I'll tell you. Number one, lot of screen time for students. So parents are always hesitant that what my child must be doing online. Exposure is too much, whether he's really learning things which he should, or is he distracted. So number one was they were very hesitant with the screen time. Secondly, if I talk, people were very used to the traditional methods of textbooks or smart boards, or in schools, whatever the traditional classroom learning is, parents were quite used to that. So to change the myth that you can still blend the two worlds, which is traditional learning methods as well as incorporate technology into your learning, will of course reduce your time. When a child goes to school here, at least 3, 4, 4:30, they are in these schools. Now talk about the academic tuitions after school hours. That takes another 1 or 2 hours minimum, where you will be going to the center, coming back. You need some free time for the child where he can, unwind himself. So that is where we play a role. We have kept it very simple. The goal is very simple, to make education which is engaging, which can be accessible very easily And at the same time, you're not losing at the essence of the traditional learning method. So it's just about blending two worlds and keeping education very, very simple.
So this is very clear to me about the e-learning perspective. And if I am to answer, I'm a person who would always choose technology over traditional. Yes, people have their own sayings that technology is going to take my job, AI is going to take my job, this and that. I have thousands of reasons. Today I don't want to discuss that. But yes, I would always choose AI. I would always choose technology. If you're using that in the right way, it's going to help you. Anything, if you're going to use it in wrong way, it is going to destroy you. So that's one thing. When you say you move to e-learning for the better of the society and for the people, what is the difference between your e-learning perspective and many other e-learning which opened after the COVID, because everybody was trying it to get into the online space? How do you differentiate yourself?
See, it's about the educators. What kind of tutors you have, how open you are to take feedback from the students as well as from the parents and as well as from the educators who are teaching those students. I think I always felt that you will be ahead of everybody when you are researching what are the global trends happening in your field. So for me, it has always been a constant feedback from all three of them. If something is not going right, we try to change it. If you're failing, it's not failing. It's just the way where you have discovered that you're not supposed to do, this particular way. So for me, it's constant feedback. And the app that we use, parents are free to go and check how the classes happen. So it's not just that you're sitting on a Zoom call and you're being taught. You have a complete record of the classes, what has been taught, the notes are available, whatever is been taught inside the classes. So the entire brief information is available and accessible to parents as well as the students
Through the app.
through the app.
Yes.
And you don't have to wait for your next class. If you have any doubts, you can just type it out that Miss, I have these doubts, and Miss will definitely respond to all of those. We have a chart where the whole notes have been shared. So that's, I think, where we really stand out in terms of offering innovative solutions at EdPark.
So basically, many e-learning, especially in the kids aspect, I would not say in the academics aspect, bigger ones, are only focusing to come out on Zoom or any other medium and just speak and give the lecture and then go from here there. But when you say you're e-learning, you are live there answering the question. Not like, they can post questions. You can really always be there on the app to ask question. You can see transparently what exactly is happening.
Because that's what I meant initially. I want to make learning accessible. It has to be engaging, of course, because you will lose the interest otherwise of the subject. But accessible means what? He doesn't have to wait for the next class. If he has an exam, he can just ask any questions and it has been answered.
Like I'll mention an example, because I deal with a lot of students, good students as well. So there are students who are challenged, who find concept understanding challenging. Okay. Then you have tutors who teach the concepts. But there are students who are very good with the concepts. They just need to know how to score. That means working with marking schemes, working with fast question papers, working with key and power words in the answers. So, the tailor-made concept of teaching is what is helping now, because, you're not taking a generic class like a format.
Correct.
So if the child comes to her, or, it's like, okay, I want just, to score. So then the teacher teaches in a way, okay, now let's work on that.
Got it.
So that way, the tailor-made concept of e-learning is very beneficial rather than,
And it saves time for the child. They are very hectic. They need to build up their profile. They need to do all the ECAs. Because as they grow, and for the university admissions, I'm sure Bhavna will agree to this, it's not only about academic excellence. What apart from academics have you done? Have you done volunteering, or have you done many other initiatives, whether you are taking any leadership skills? So there is already lots on their plate.
Well, before I move on to the most important aspect of podcast, can you little bit define more on the leadership skill which we never focused during our academics from nursery, I think, till we pass out in
We
university?
should have a subject, in fact.
Yeah. So basically, I'll tell you the leadership skills that it's not that the universities, or for that matter, even the employers look at is basically your
I look at.
yeah. So your
For me, it's the most important parameter.
most everywhere in the world, I would say. So people, what they look at is the initiative taking skills. It's not about how many initiatives you took and you failed or became successful. The whole point is you took an initiative, you worked on it, and then you tried to, make it successful. That is what happens. So when you're talking when you're talking the concept of school, and when you're talking about leadership skills, that means okay. Nowadays, every school is very, inclusive and very open to ideas, for the students to come and talk about it. Like, for example, any student can start a club in school. Okay, it can be a newspaper club, it can be a radio, it can be, a tutoring club, like where senior students go and help out the other younger students. It can be any kind of. So any student who takes an initiative, that falls under leadership skills. That means, a student can be a part of student council. They can be student reps, they can be tech heads, they can be sports captain, they can be anything. So any place where anyone takes an initiative and gets identified is counted as leadership skills.
Got it. Now, the most important aspect. A route which has taken by you, Diya and Bhavna, which is not so commonly taken, and which is starting your own podcast beyond the classroom. I mean, rarely we have seen teachers and a psychologist coming together or coming separately as well to listen to the stories, share the stories of the people in the right way. Yes, there are a lot of content creators. We all know that putting a video camera and starting it. But podcast, as we all understand, is a different ball game. It requires huge effort in understanding your guest, making the setups, everything. So we are going to discuss that in detail because this is very, very different than creating a normal content with camera. And I mean, I'm not differentiating between both the content creators, but this is completely different. It's not the same. A lot of content creators try to switch between both. Yes, that's fine, but this is little bit of more of a listening game, I believe, and that's more of a saying skill, I believe. So moving on to it, I want to first know what is the reason to start your podcast and why did you name it Beyond the Classroom?
So, as Bhavna had mentioned, that we met at an educational summit, and I still believe what I said, that it was not a coincidence, it was for a purpose. Meeting right person at the right time for a purpose. So yes, after being professional friends and after a lot of discussions, we always felt that there should be a platform which should be created for everybody. It is not like a student can listen to it, a professional can listen to it, because we all are definitely a part of education system somewhere or the other, whether it is banking, whether it is any particular field. So what we thought, let us get all these industry experts together. We should have their real life experiences on our podcast, which can help others in some or the other way. It is also one of the reason where I feel and she feels that we need to give back to the society.
Yes.
So the tiniest way possible, doesn't matter. Maybe the bite-sized reels that I understand people do not have lot of time to spend 2 hours of podcast listening to us. But when you take those bite-sized reels, which are very important, and you think that it can be helpful for somebody, it can be for your personal growth, it can be for your business growth, it can be for choosing any careers because of the education, or any for that matter. So we always thought, let us try and give our best and make an effort if it's going to help somebody in any other way. And there is nothing best than podcast today to voice and get inspired. It generates a spark between somebody or the other.
What's your take on that, Bhavna?
Yeah, so whatever she said, we met and we used to just sit and have a lot of discussions, believe me, and the hours would go by. So the thing is, we decided to start this also as a medium for a lot of parents to understand that, that traditional classroom, traditional education is good. But without these add-ons, it's difficult to work out. So the reason why we also named this Beyond the Classroom was, again, because we wanted to stress on the fact that the education podcast that we are starting is not about traditional classroom education. It's about the additional things that you need for your child, or you need as a person to excel in your career, in your, job, in your business, as an entrepreneur also. So that is one of the reasons why Beyond the Classroom was very apt. And, that I think the name says it all.
I think the name has our name as well, Business Banking MBA. So I think somewhere it is
Connections.
have the. I have a hard question to ask, and I want to put it right perspective and right on the face.
Okay.
A lot of times we start businesses in partnerships. Yes, I understand there are connections, but I have seen, although I'm not that old, but I've seen a lot of times happening it, and I've read a lot about it, that partnerships do fail.
Yes.
What have you done in business, in your Beyond the Podcast, in terms of partnership? Is it some legal perspective, something? What makes that this partnership is going to remain for a longer time? And why I'm asking this question, because this is business banking and beyond. And when it comes to business, when there are two co-founders or founders coming together, they're not just building a company, it's having a lot of employees, a lot of people. Their hard-earned time and money both are there. So if there is some challenge between the founders, it eventually affects everyone. So what have you done to save you from that?
See, when we talk about the legal aspects, of course, you do not do anything apart from doing the legal way. You need to have a license. So, of course, we do have a license for it. Now, relationships are not only on paper. Okay, whatever, 50-50%. It doesn't work like that when you're talking about business. So, for me and Bhavna, it is more about transparency. We do disagree on certain topics. A lot of topics where I have a different perspective. But again, as I mentioned, podcasting, when you are doing a podcast, when you're inviting guests, you need to experiment.
Yes.
The kind of guest you are inviting on your show. Maybe now recently we got a feedback that can we have a show on a series on homeschooling.
Okay.
So this is a feedback. When listeners are listening to your podcast, then that's when the feedback is coming to you, and that's when we receive these DMs. So I think we always have a transparency in whatever we do, and we put our thoughts raw. There is no sugar-coated language between me. If I do not like certain things, I am very up for it. If she does not like a certain things, or maybe she thinks in a different way, and we experiment both.
And we're open to all kinds of, experimenting and all kinds of challenges. And okay, do you think it's okay? Chal karke dekhte types.
There is a lot of thought process behind it. It's not like one fine day you start. There is a consistency. I'm sure you agree to it. It's not that I'll be making 2 episodes and then whoosh, I'm in the air, vanished in the thin air. That does not work. I and she has to be consistent with what we are presenting to the audience. You have to be responsible. Social media is fine. It's everywhere. But you need to be responsible for what you're portraying.
Got it. Now, as we have done recently a podcast on how to build a networking business, today we are here to discuss how to build a podcasting business. So if I have to start, what is the first step? Like in networking, we discuss before even you start building a community, the first thing is you write the rules. So what is the first step when you want to start a podcasting business? What is the first step you do? What is the second step, and moving on?
So first, the first and foremost thing is where you need to understand and decide that what would be the theme of your podcast, what message you want to put across, how do you want to portray that message, and what kind of people you want as your guests. So that is the first thing that you need to plan very seriously, that okay, this is like we decided it has to be related to education, that was something which was very common, and we both are very passionate about that education.
So theme is clear.
Theme is must be, yeah. And then then you need to really work on what kind of message did you want to portray.
Okay.
It's like message is very important.
How is the message and theme different? When you say your education, by default, the message becomes the same,
The
right?
topics, like we,
You mean the topics?
yeah, like we have beyond the classroom. But then what are the topics that we chose? We have had psychologists coming in talking about how to say no. We have had people coming in and telling us, okay, age is not a barrier. We have done this so and so. So there are a lot of learnings that, we wanted to portray. Like we had our guests talking in about additional skills. So these are distinguished guests who have achieved in that area, and they want to come and share it with people that, okay, this is what you need to do and this is what you need to think.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I think authenticity.
Authenticity, yes.
That plays a real vital role in what you're presenting. Content can be twisted, it can be tweaked depending upon what the Instagram trends are going on. But ultimately, it is what you want to present. So I think authenticity is also one of the thing that we always take care of.
Then relatability.
Relatability. What
Yes.
do you mean by that? Can you explain?
When I say relatability means, it's about presenting your message in a way that everyone is able to relate. A simple language in layman terms. So that everyone, if it's a parent, if it's a professional, even if it's a housewife, if someone is able to relate to the content that you're giving, it really works.
Yes.
So relatability is very important when you're putting your message across. It may be however technical, complex concept, but the way you present it makes a lot of difference.
Got it. Sorry to say this, but this is the hard fact as well. There are a lot of people who are coming into podcasting who are not consistent, first thing, but they are coming. And then when they start, they don't have the clear goals what they are trying to achieve. A lot of times, even the podcasters who have started with a niche deviate in the process just to gain more views or something or the other. What do you think is the right approach? Sticking to your niche, like you have somewhere or the other, education is your niche. For me, business is my niche no matter what happens. Do you think niche is the thing, or just for the views or something else you can deviate? That's okay.
I think people value consistency and what content you're presenting. Probably some of your episodes or some of your reels might not go viral. That's not important here. What is the content and what are you trying to build? If your community is built with your podcasting audience, they will resonate. They are there because they liked what you're presenting. And when you're presenting, you're putting so much of thought process, it will work. Not today, maybe tomorrow. And it might be beneficial for some or the other person, which you never will come to know unless you've been told about it. So I think that's perfectly fine. There's no worry. There's nothing to worry about it. And you just keep doing your work and it's going to give you fruits one fine day.
Surely. It's the hard work we play. I believe more in hard work.
Yeah, I agree.
Smart work is important to find it.
Yeah, but it can or cannot lead to success. Yeah.
But success, again, you don't need a validation for that. So I think, yeah, it's perfectly fine.
The word that you mentioned, niche. Now, when we're talking about topics like education or business, like my topic or your topic, these may be niche topics, but the kind of stuff that you have the kind of topics that you have are just vast because trends are changing every day. The whole scenario, the landscape of education is changing, the landscape of business keeps changing.
And you always will bring those fresh perspectives, right?
You will never be short of, topics in either of the, niche.
Got it. So when it comes to the podcast, the first thing is theme. Then you have to stick to your message, or I would say topic. Relatability is important. But
Authenticity is
authenticity is important. When it comes to choosing the guest, how do you choose that? And then second, most importantly, how do you make sure that when we are doing a podcast, everybody has different personality. I mean, there is a persona, but it has different angles to it. I might be a banker, business guy, but I have different. I am a husband, I am a father, but you have called him for a specific purpose. Like today, we are sitting here talking about mainly education, psychology, and podcasting. That's our motto. How do you make sure that when the guest is coming, we stick to that topic, and how do you choose them?
So basically, when we create a questionnaire, or when we do the want to understand the message that the guest wants to put in, what we do is we don't focus only on education, or we don't focus only on entrepreneurial journey. We correlate that. For example, one of the RJs that we had on our podcast is also a father who teaches a son.
I think Vivek.
Vivek, yes. He was our first
guest.
Oh, he was here also.
Yeah.
I have seen that.
Yeah. So the way he teaches his son and his friends about cricket and, correlating it with maths.
Yeah.
Now that is playground maths. Yes. That is what we look at. Anything and everything that the guests can relate to in the education.
And I'll tell you the topics that we have about education, everybody has something to say.
Yes.
No matter which field you are, if I talk about banking and if I correlate with education, financial literacy for kids, I'm sure you have a lot of points to discuss. If I and you, we and you talk about it, you have a lot of points, right? About how kids should know things. So it can never go out of fashion. Every industry and education goes hand in hand.
I think Vivek here is the best example for me to share and for you to share. As I mentioned about the personality thing, when it comes to Vivek coming on business banking and beyond, it was only about professionalism. And in RJ perspective, I'm not saying that professionalism, I mean, see, is his learning in job. So we discuss only about marketing, especially in radio. When it comes to beyond the classroom, it was more of personal, and kids and the audience looking for that would be learning in that perspective. So I think that also clarifies a lot.
And moreover, we had one more guest who was an animal mentor. Now this is something which was very new. I mean, I had not heard about this concept before this. Like I had heard animal whisperers,
Animal behaviorists.
Yeah, but animal behaviorists, no. So that was something which we also learned new, and which I'm sure a lot of parents and kids also learned that, okay, this can be a career. This can be something. Or maybe, I need to rethink the way I deal with my pet.
Got it.
Many got fascinated to get a pet also.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And then approach him for trainings.
Yeah.
No, of course, that is how it is. If you really learn something which is new, plus which you have not really learned before, and plus it makes sense. So why not to try it? And I think you can really make money. If you're master at something, you will make money out of it.
No, and here we are talking only about the guest. If I talk about, us as a host,
Yes.
for us also there's so much of
Learning.
to learn.
Yes, for sure.
I would have not approached these guests if I was not into podcasting. Do you agree to that?
Yes.
So we always had that we get to learn from them. We have also built a networking opportunity with them, which otherwise we wouldn't have.
Yes.
I feel like that as a podcaster, even me, I have learned a lot. And the reason for me to continue podcast is something personal. I would say selfishness.
Today you and us are sitting together for the podcast. That's a connection, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, probably this networking opportunity wouldn't have been because you're a
Learning.
I mean,
A lot of learning. All my podcast, I have learned so much from my guest. And that's the reason I am consistently doing this. Otherwise, I would say just for content creation, no. Or maybe just for the audience, I will not say yes. I would say I am selfish somewhere in this, that I am also learning a lot. And at the same time, there are a lot of people who are watching this will learn. So coming back to what exactly is the topic which you think resonates more with the audience? You have seen in your statistics of podcasts, as per the current trends? I know you have mentioned that it keeps on changing, but have you seen something, any topic which is resonating most of the times and keeps trending?
I think mental health.
Mental health, yes.
Mental health is
Perfect.
the need of the hour. No, also because technology is a blessing, but at times it is overwhelming also for some of them who cannot make use of it. So I think mental health is one of the topics that really resonated well. We had Miss Sandra Gorman, who had discussed about the narcissist personality, how many of us get affected and cannot set boundaries, are vulnerable, and we just discussed, we really cannot talk everything to everyone. So that was again one of the topics that resonated really, really well, because many of them have it in their hearts, but it never comes out.
Like there was a topic called as how to say no. Now there are 10 times a day when you really want to say no,
But you don't.
but you don't.
I think soundboard also makes sense here because you don't find soundboard so easily. So what is your soundboard? Maybe listening and speaking to the digital world, especially to the podcast, where it's a real authentic story somebody is sharing and you're getting guidance out of it. Well, I was expecting it. Although I am also watching a lot of founder story, business story, but somewhere it helps to calm yourself down and to be more peaceful. So I think this is a topic which helps everyone.
Everyone.
Now it's BTS time, behind the scenes time, that where I want to know what exactly happens behind the scenes of a podcast when you're doing a setup. So we had discussed the theme, guest, everything. What challenges you face when you're building a podcasting business? What in terms of being a setup, calling the guest, own the time, how do you conceptualize that in the BTS aspect? Do you have some lights to share on that?
Okay.
Uh, Behind the scenes, there have been many, but on camera, I don't know how much I should be revealing. Sorry, audience, but then I think
Those are trade secrets.
no, but then see, we have been very fortunate that whoever professionally we have connected, whether it was on LinkedIn or any other platforms, we have always gotten a positive response. They would really like to come and share their successes, their failures, how they came out of it, or any others to personal stories also. So I think we have been very fortunate. We never struggled to call anybody that we wanted to. So that's one good thing that happened. Behind the scenes, technically, yes, because we are all in a learning process. We don't know each and everything. As I mentioned many a times, we decide that the show has to go in this particular manner, but it doesn't go. And that's perfectly fine by us because we have accepted it. That you need to really be flexible and go with the flow. So we don't have a structured, organized podcast episode. Topic, yes, it's been, of course, discussed with the guest, and we just go with the flow. Because podcasting is about conversation. It's not about putting only the information on the table that this is it.
Yep.
No, it's not.
It's all about discussion.
And it's about conversation.
Yeah, it's all about storytelling also.
Otherwise, it would be more like an interview where I am asking questions and the guest is giving the answers, which we do not follow. It has to be a two-way communication. The perspectives, but it need not match. That's perfectly fine. But that's why behind the scenes, as such, we do not have. We just go with the flow. It's perfectly fine.
What about the technical difficulties?
Technically, yes, because again, social media or something which you need to explore, the algorithms which comes in, sometimes it do not hit, it goes pale. But again, it's a learning experience, and you get to know that, okay, this time your audience is not really active and you're not supposed to, post those kind of reels at this particular time. So yes, we do have a team who takes care of it, and we are also learning from that.
Learning phase, yes.
How the reels are more visually appealing for somebody, because this is not just audio. You're presenting yourself. So grooming is again one that I and Bhavna think that it should be taken care of. So yes, technically it's just the social media platforms, the algorithms that should be given a little bit of more importance if you want to make it viral. If not, then it's perfectly fine.
What do you think, Mahan, on that?
Yeah, same as, I resonate with her. She's technically more sound than me, I would say. So, yeah, technically we did initially learnt a lot. But then, as of now, I wouldn't say that technically there are a lot of challenges other than, finding a good editing team is very important. Believe me, because other than that, it does not work. The good cameraman, editing team.
And the snippets of the guests
Yes.
that you're sharing, that also plays a very good role because your audience knows who's the next and they really will look forward to it if the snippets are little more interesting and engaging and the image changes. They look forward to the episode. So technical is
Now, coming on to the financials, the most important for any business perspective. When it comes to long podcasting, I believe it's a long term business. You cannot just expect you started today and tomorrow it will start monetizing or something. What will be your one piece of advice for the new podcasters who are coming? And how do they sustain with the right cash flow and keep being consistent to deliver the right quality of content in podcasting?
see podcast, you don't have to have a high end studio. It's never about shooting in a very most luxurious studio and you will be a big hit and you will start monetizing. It is always being, of course, visually it has to be a presentable place, but the content. We had always said this, what you're presenting your audience is very important.
Content is the king. I mean, whatever it is. If you don't have good, relatable content in the form of stories and anecdotes, it's difficult to work.
And as you said, what is that one thing? Consistency. Be consistent, be truthful to your audience, present how much ever you want without thinking the analytics of it.
And moreover, the same principle applies to any business. You cannot just start a business and within 6 months think about success. You have to keep doing it. You have to be consistently working hard with all your financials sorted out till the time you achieve or whatever time frame you have given yourself for that business.
Correct.
And I think honestly, when you keep working, eventually you'll find your way.
Yes.
Got it. So, if I may say, what is your success metrics for your podcast?
The
What is
feedbacks.
The feedbacks, yes.
Now, there are so many people who probably don't hit that like button. But there are so many networking opportunities, like the
Yeah.
networking events that we go. And there are even people coming to us and talking about the topics that we have. But if I see, probably they have not liked the reel.
Yeah.
But that's not how I measure my success. Like how many likes I'm getting
Exactly.
or how many views have been done. So somewhere, if people are coming to us and talking about it, I think your success is big enough.
And the thing is, they already tell us what kind of, topics they want discussed. Just like homeschooling.
Yeah.
So if someone is coming up and telling you, okay, we want this to be discussed, that is one of the biggest compliments you get.
I think these small things is what we measure it as a success.
Long term growth.
Long-term growth, yes.
Now it's time for the rapid fire.
Oh, yes. Anish, actually, right?
Excuse me.
Well, I'm trying my best to cope up with it.
Okay.
So who's on the hot seat first? Is it us or is it you?
I think no, I will put up the questions. I think both of you are answer it right away.
There.
And this is not my forte. So sorry for that, but I'll try to be as humorous as possible.
Okay.
So starting with, what do you think is the best time to record a podcast, morning or night?
Morning.
Biggest podcasting myth you have ever heard?
Follow the trends and you'll be viral.
Yeah, same.
One dream guest you would love to have on your podcast, except me.
Sydney Sheldon.
Okay. What about you?
Steve.
Would you rather have a guest who only speaks in quotes or one who only speaks in memes?
For me, memes.
Memes.
So we all like to laugh.
Yeah, because humor has to be there. Even if you're doing a podcast,
Yeah.
it cannot be serious all the time. People love to laugh.
After every 30 minutes, 20 minutes, especially we need that dose. Otherwise, it's already, we are not in ICU.
Yeah, stress buster.
Yeah.
Your secret to keeping conversations engaging. How do you keep that? What's your secret?
Stick to the topic. Sit.
If your podcast had a theme song, what would it be? Theme song.
हिंदी मीडियम का कौन सा गाना था वो?
I don't even remember.
I'm so sorry, but I do not, at the moment, get any theme song.
Next is one word advice for aspiring podcasters.
Consistency.
And authenticity, truthfulness. I always feel that's what you need. Information is available all over. There's a lot of information available. But what information are you going to present? Please be careful.
Just like responsibility.
Please be careful with that.
Got it.
Okay, now we turn the tables and we do our rapid fire with you, right?
I was expecting a little bit, but let's
Little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't promise hampers.
Second point on your bucket list.
to really relax, maybe go on mountains and relax a bit.
And wind yourself.
Yeah.
A vacation.
Yeah, this is my bucket list always, but there are many other things as well.
Okay. So if you had to wear a warning label on yourself, what it would be?
Don't be just a show off. Whatever it is, even if you don't know anything, be genuine. Don't just react if like I'm speaking in English. You're not compelled to speak in English if you don't know it. So that's my warning. Just be whatever you are. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
So one craziest thing that you've done
Many.
on a dare from your friends. On a dare from your friends.
I can say about my 10th boards.
Okay.
Well, 10th is the most difficult boards in the life. And as I said, I was always fully prepared about it. So on the day of exam of boards, I was playing cricket
Okay.
with my friends.
How much did you score?
Thanks. No, he said he was an achiever, so I'm sure he achieved good marks.
That was the last exam of the board, but it was an important one.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if your life was supposed to be titled with a Bollywood movie, what would it be?
Milkha Singh?
Oh, wow.
What about you, Bhavna?
Me?
Hmm.
I don't know. Not on the top of
Kuch-
my
kuch.
mind. Okay, what about you?
Zindagi na milegi dobara.
And 3 Idiots for me, yes.
So me, it is Zindagi na milegi dobara.
Okay. Would you rather be followed by a tiny annoying duck for the rest of your life or a parrot that constantly insults you?
So anyways, both difficult because he's insulting, so he'll be annoying a lot as well. But insulting, I would prefer insulting.
Agreed. I would too. At least he'll be engaging.
At least I know what he is following me. I don't know, yeah, why he's insulting. Maybe I can improve. There is something, some pulse there.
You can just catch the duck and cook it.
Oh, what's the weirdest food combination you have ever tried?
I'm not a foodie, so whatever is on my plate.
No, weirdest food combination.
Cake with pickle.
That was on our podcast.
One of the guests said cake with pickle.
Cake with pickle? No. Maybe my friend told me, so one time only I've tried mixing Coke with ice cream and then it bursts out.
वो तो float बन गया ना?
हाँ नहीं पर वो चलता है.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
there, yeah.
I tried that and
It's actually nice.
yeah, it was nice, but people say no, you can't do that. So I said, maybe weird.
Fun terminology. Yeah. So if money grew on trees, what would you do? The first thing that
The bank.
I would burn the tree. No, it's tree also, so I can't burn the tree,
Oh God.
but I would never climb up for that money. That's
the
for sure.
sure point is, did you ever think nobody would leave that tree alone for you to climb?
That's also true. But I would not go for that.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
For sure.
I agree. I would
Something
even
with
stop
the
watering
very
that tree.
जब कुछ ज्यादा रोजी दिखने लगे तो red flags.
I believe in that movie which forgot which is in the ocean. The guy is stuck in the ocean. I forgot. It's a Hollywood movie where he goes on a island which is very good in the day and in the night it eats you. So I believe easy money is kind of that. I might get it in the day a lot, but it will go off in the night.
True.
You won't be able to have a peaceful sleep. And
Yeah, so I believe in that.
True.
so that's the end of our rapid.
Thank you for asking rapid fire on my own podcast.
So that's
Yeah.
something different, right? You did not expect that
No,
from
man,
us.
but I loved it. Thank you so much again for coming here. Really, the thing which you are doing, moving out of your teaching, psychology, educational, and giving out a lot to all of us is really amazing. I'll be looking forward for a lot of podcasts, learning from you. I like to learn from the guest and from the podcast as well. And never forget, we have beyond in common.
Yes, we do. We do. Thank you for the invite. It was really lovely and good discussion we had like over the past hour.
More than that, I don't.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.